Thank you very much. And please remain standing as we administer the oath.
I, Moses Zebla, do solemnly swear that my testimony that I have come to give to TRC of Liberia is the truth and nothing but the whole truth. So help me God.
Good morning, Mr. Witness.
Yeah, good morning, Chairman.
Thank you for coming. And on behalf of the Commission, we want to say welcome and express our appreciation that you have taken up time of your busy schedule to honor the invitation of the Commission to come and contribute to the peace and reconciliation process in our country. As you know, the TRC grew out of the Accra Peace Accord, and since the last 2 years, consistent with the mandate of the TRC in the TRC Act, the Commission has been conducting a number of activities which has led to where we are. This public forum is happening because we believe that people make history. That after the end of a protracted conflict, we who are survivors are the ones who embody the experience, the truth, and the reality of our past. And to pursue reconciliation, it is important that all of us understand what happened, the role we play, what needs to be done to sustain the peace in Liberia. As a prominent Liberian citizen, you have yourself had a public life, which entails the period 1979 to 2003 that the TRC is covering. You were a member of the Armed Forces of Liberia before, a member of the National Patriotic Front, and then a former president of this republic. It is against this background that we thought fit to invite you so that you can share your experiences with the Liberian people so that the myth, the realities, the falsehoods of the past can be understood and clarified, and we can have a sustainable basis for reconciling amongst ourselves as Liberians. So thank you very much, and we say you are most welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, sir. At this time, I will introduce commissioners who are present, and then following that, you can move into your presentation. Commissioner Sheikh Kafuma Kone sits at the right end of the panel. Next to him is Commissioner Per Brownbull. Next to her is Commissioner Umu Sila. And on the left is Commissioner John Stewart. Next to him is Commissioner Gerald Coleman. I am Jerome Verdier. We say welcome. It's all yours.
And thank you very much for inviting me to come to this commission. And I will say thank you also. And I'll follow you closely. And TRC is not strange to me in the sense that I have been listening to you, listening to witnesses here that have testified. And I appreciate everything that have gone on here. And I'm also happy that I'm here today, more especially to you, the chairman and the commissioner. I will say nothing but the truth. And as former president of this country, I serve as Adjutant General of National Patriotic Front of Liberia, Inspector General then Liberia ambassador to Libya and Tunisia, and lastly becoming president of this country, of this beloved country. I joined the National Patriotic Front of Liberia in 1985 in Cote d'Ivoire. We all fled this town in 1985 when it was so difficult on my tribe, more especially Gio and Manu. There was a conflict between the late General Kuyongpa and Samuel Kanyendo, then the president of this country. And that really drove out of here because I have a connection with Samuel Kuyongpa, being a Gio man, being my cousin. And we were all driven from here, and I went into Nimba and on to La Côte d'Ivoire. To be precise, we were in Côte d'Ivoire in a village called Benwe, that's in Danane region, where we lived for about a few months. And one afternoon, a fellow came from Abidjan called Godfather, Afro-Man to be precise. Afro-Man came and grouped few of us together to inform us of a man who is called Charles Taylor, is trying to help us cross back to Liberia and remove the government of Samuel Kanyendo. He pitied our condition. We have been suffering. Some of us have been cutting butchers for people cleaning into cocoa farms and doing all kinds of jobs just to survive. And we all accepted. We were about 22 in a group that accepted to go with him. So wheresoever we were going, to come back to Liberia and remove this government. So we agreed, and that took us about a week searching for other friends in the various villages around Danane. But we were able to get in the 20, and 20 of us left and went to Abidjan and on to Ouagadougou. In Ouagadougou, we based in Ouagadougou in a place called Po, and this Po is closer to Ouagadougou. It's a military base. But then we went on to another village where we were like a secret place. There was a little conflict in the town between Dama Sankara and Blaise Compaoré. But we didn't know what was going on. But we were taken to a secret place, and while we were there for a few weeks, and on the Thursday, I cannot remember the date to be precise, and we were taken to the airport in Ouagadougou to a plane, a Russian plane, and the pilot of the plane came down, and some other men of Burkinabe army came and said that you people are going on to Libya. We didn't know this before. We thought we were going to stay in Ouagadougou and train as commandos. But then we agreed, and we boarded the plane, and the plane took off for Tripoli, Libya. And what was that? The date will come later. And we went into Tripoli, and we were taken by bus from the airport to a camp called Tajura Camp. This camp is of an old American Air Force base while they were fighting in Vietnam. It's near the beach, some kind of beach very close to the city. And there where we were. And after a week or two, some officers of the Libyan army came and said, well, the group is small, and we cannot just train 22 men to fight in a whole country, a whole army of a country. You people have to be here and wait here until whosoever brought you here will come. At this time, we got news that Charles Taylor was in jail in Ghana. And while we were in Ouagadougou, who we saw was Agnes Taylor, Godfather, who took us there, and the two first commanders we had, they were Cooper Miller and Augustine Wright. two men we saw, and they talked to us, and they went with us, but actually did not go to Libya with us. It was Cuba Miller and African that went with us to Libya. So we were there waiting, and it took about a month or two. So this fellow who took us to Libya now, Cuba Miller, who's supposed to be our commander, one night he called a meeting, and he said that it doesn't make sense to him to come all the way to Libya to train for a conquer man. And what is our decision? He said, look, what we should do now, we have to name this organization. At that time, the organization has not been named as National Patriotic Front of Liberia. We didn't have name to it. So he said, what I would do is that we give the organization a name, and we can recruit. We can send back home for our brothers to come and join us. But because this man who's supposed to be our leader is not coming, and we are just wasting time in the desert here. But then I refused. My point of argument at the time was that Godfather told me earlier that Charles Taylor, who was supposed to be the head of this organization, had married a woman from my village. I'm from Towetan, Lima County. So I was a little bit impressed by that. So I said, well, since this is the case, I have to stick to this man who had married my girl from my hometown, than to deviate to another person who I don't even know much. So that didn't go down well with Cuba Miller, who was then the commander. He said, well, what I would do to you is that since you refused to accept what we are saying, we will have to call the Libyan authority. You are an agent for Samuel Kanyento. You have come here as a spy, and you will not be in this group. I thought he was joking. One evening, a military police jeep came, and they asked me to get on board the jeep, and I did. And we went on to a place called Mantaba Camp, and they took me away from the group. I was there for about 3 weeks. I've been fed properly, I was eating. I was sleeping well. It was a very comfortable place. Then in an army camp where we were. After the 3 weeks, one weekend, the brother of Charles Taylor, the late Batu Taylor, came from Ouagadougou. And he was looking for me, and he was directed to where I was in my apartment. He said, oh, Moses Black, what are you doing here? I said, well, I was brought here by Cuba Miller and Augustine Wright, that I was spy for Samuel Kanyento, and it was not necessary I stay in a group there with them. While I was sitting there, he came, he said, well, we are not talking now. We will talk later tonight. When we go to eat, I will tell you why I'm here. Then we went to dinner, and he said, well, he was sent there by his brother Charles Taylor. Charles Taylor is all a Jew. He has left Ghana. He is now in Ouagadougou. He's on his way coming. But he was asked to come and inspect. He's hearing some funny news from the base that people are trying to rebel against him. So I said, well, that I do not know. What I said was changing the name of what we are here and changing it to another person, which I disagreed. Then he said, well, let's sleep over it the next day. The next day he left and said he was going to the camp where we were, because there where he went. He went and met the people in the camp. He was there for about 3 days. Later he returned to Mataba, where I was. And he said, well, look, we will have to wait here. I'll wait here with you. My brother is on his way and he will be here soon. We were there for another week. He was not coming. So I asked him, I said, well, I will make a decision. I talked to Libya, the Libyan authority, that I go back home. I go back to Cote d'Ivoire and find something else to do. Because I'll be wasting time. The group has denied me. And they are saying that I'm a spy. My life is in danger. And this place is very far from where we were, where we are from. And he said, no, do not go back. Stay here. my brother will come. That evening, luckily for me, that evening the Libyan, one of the commanders came from the base. He's looking for who was Moses Blah. I said, Moses Blah. He said, well, let's go to the headquarters of Mataba. Later I'll tell you what Mataba is. Well, Mataba, while we are in Mataba, you will be waiting, expecting the child stealer will be there. They are taken to another apartment, a hotel. So we went to the hotel, that's where I met him. He said, oh, Moses, you are here my very first time to see former President Charles Taylor. He said, what happened? Why you are here and you are not in the training camp? I said, Cooper Miller and Augustine Red had asked that I came here as a spy for Samuel Kanyendo. So they are taking me from the camp, and that's why I'm here. He said, no, he laughed and he said, no, this is not true. But tomorrow morning we are going to the camp in Tajura, where there will be a big investigation. And in the morning we went. We went to Tajura. There was a roll call, everybody came. We were about 22, as I said earlier. The group has now grown up to full-size military grouping. So he said, well, he told Cooper Miller, he said, well, I heard what happened here. And why coming from Ouagadougou? I forgot to mention this. He brought with him one Azim Musa to be the commander in place of Cooper Miller and Augustine Wright. So while we were going to the camp, we took Azim Musa with us, but I didn't know his intention at the time. So after the meeting in the camp, he said, look, now this is my organization. This organization is called National Patriotic Front of Liberia. And no man will change the name of this organization. I'm the leader and nobody else. And he said, look, Azim Musa is your commander. Moses Blah is an adjutant responsible for records while training. And I'm taking with me you, Cooper Miller, and Augustine Wright. The day after, he took them with him to Ouagadougou. And we were in the camp, running the camp, and they were bringing trainees in group. We have the first group. Group 1 was 22 men, which I'm part of. Then the second group came, 47-man group came. Then the 37-man group came. We were named by the group that you come in. Then we have the last group was about 36-man group. Training was going on very, very fine. We were in training. We trained about a year and a half in Tajura. Then something else happened. Azim Musa, our commander, became very aggressive, very aggressive, very authoritative. So the training the men, the soldiers got annoyed. And they said, well, they are not slaves. They have gone to Libya their own will. They were not bought by anybody. So the treatment was very harsh on them. They would stop to train. And they did stop. When they stopped, and it was not good. The Libyan became concerned while the Liberian was not training. And he called me, and they talked to me, and they quicker get to me than Azim Musa, because Azim was very, very aggressive during training. So I told them they were the dissatisfaction among our men, and they decided not to train. And then they asked that, okay, it should go on as that, and they have to send for President Taylor to come at, and he was just a rebel leader. Your leader, Taylor, will have to come, then you can investigate that matter among yourselves. And about a week time, Taylor came, and there was a big bull seller we investigated. Then he decided again that he's taking Azim Musa with him back to Ouagadougou. And I will stay in charge as commander, adjutant, and commander, base commander in Tripoli. The position I held until the training ends. While I was there as commander and adjutant for training has ended. and we decided to send the men back to Ouagadougou and then prepare for war in Liberia. In coming back to Ouagadougou, we were coming in stages as we went. But then dissatisfaction came again. The men said that while we are not coming together and people are coming in groups, one night there was a coup against me. The men planned that they would have to murder me and bury me in the sand because there are other people gone already and the other groups are still behind. It could be that till I have sold the people and we are eating the money, they have sold the trainees to Libya to fight in Chad, and we are taking the money, since I'm there, I would die for the money that till I have taken. So the MP commander under my control at the time came from the meeting and pinched me. He said, look, I got a very dangerous information to give you. I said, what is that? He said, well, look, tonight by 4:30, if you count down to call to assemble the men for roll call, something will happen to you. You might not survive it. So I said, why? Then he explained what was the plan, what was discussed in the meeting. So I sat there and I didn't know what to do at the moment. I thought for a while and said, fine, I know what to do. I called another fellow. I have the MP commanders, then I have another commander for security, then I have another commander again for control. There were three, able-bodied men I had there, they were for that purpose to control the men. As you know, it's a military training, we have to be very rough. So I ordered them. I said, look, go into the buildings, in the various rooms, and arrest the name that are giving me. I said, look, arrest these people and bring them to me. But first of all, let's investigate. Look, let's investigate if the information is correct. I went down myself, creeping to the steps that we were under, and I saw this man, Robert Wonsalier, one of the trainees, were already there with iron bar, waiting to mock me early that morning if I come down to call for assembly for the soldier to go online. But when I saw him, really, sleep had carried him, he was sleeping. So I came back up in my room and decided to wait and call for my men. So I told my men to go down and arrest him and take anything that like evidence that like what I said, that he was going to mob him with a stick or an iron bar or so. So they went and have him arrested, brought him to me. We were on the investigation till morning, and other people came forward, and they all admitted that they wanted to do this because they were delaying. Everybody left. Why is it that they are staying in Libya? So as I ordered the Libyans to come to my aid to have them arrested because I was afraid, and have them detained. The Libya refused. While the Libyans said that, well, you have the authority as a commander here, you have all right to detain your own men. We will give you protection. And what I did was I ordered everybody to go to jail. There about 13, 15 of them. I have them detained. Then I called to our leader, President Taylor in Ouagadougou, to come because I'm afraid I could be killed for nothing. Exactly, he came. When he came, he told the man, he said, well, we have to go back as we came. We are going back by stages, in groups. We didn't come together. Now, why is it that you people are causing problem here for the commander? We settled that day. He talked with him, all the troublemakers, those who have put a contention that they were not going, they were all taken with him to Ouagadougou. And lastly, I took the last group with me to Ouagadougou. And while in Ouagadougou, we were taken to a place, a camp. I was in the camp. I was adjutant responsible for records. I was in the office in Ouagadougou, and the men were taken to a camp. What we did, every week we go with food supplies to them, get medical equipment for them. We make sure that doctors will see them. At the same time, we are taking some men to come to the border of Liberia to inspect how do we enter into Liberia. We had some intelligence people that we brought. We were already trained for that purpose in Libya, and they were there already at the border waiting to find ways for us to enter. Then at one point, President Taylor said, what you would do, Moses Blah, you are not going. We are brought to attack Liberia. You will have to go back to Libya. Since the Libyans are promising us to give some weapons to help start to enter this country, you have to be there to pressurize them to make sure that those things are delivered on time. I was not around the border during the starting of the war that night. I was in Libya. So I was in Libya, no news from Taylor, no news from anybody, isolated in a place called Mataba, as I said. And one evening, it was on the 1st of January. It was at the end of the year. Then January the 3rd, a group of Libyans came. High-power delegation came. They were a little bit angry. And they said, Moses, we are hearing from radio that Charles Taylor has attacked Liberia already. They are fighting in a place called Butu. Do you know what Butu is? They came with them. They brought up with them a map from Liberia. So I said, Butu. I said, but Butu is very far from Monrovia. And that discouraged them again, because showing them Butu on the map and the distance from Butu to Monrovia is not an easy war to fight. So they said, but this is a mistake again. We are not giving Taylor the go-ahead to attack Liberia. We were telling him to wait. We are doing the groundwork. Why is it that he has to go to attack at this time? But anyway, what we will do right now is that we are talking to Blaise Campari in Ouagadougou. Whatsoever he has, his armory, let him try and send few materials to Charles Taylor to start, because he has started the war already and we cannot wait. So then you have to go to Ouagadougou to arrange that, or you have to be there to see and supervise that. Then we will have to call you back. When I got to Ouagadougou that afternoon, the next day, and I went to a fellow who was responsible for this operation. He said, those things you are talking about left last night. They are all gone. It means that you have to go back to Tripoli, because those things are not here. The equipment we have got ordered from the Libyan authority last night, and we are empty everything here. They are taking it with them. But I did not go, because the Libyan state, I went to the embassy, and the state told me to wait to hear from Taylor before I can leave. I was there for about 2 weeks. The war progressing. I'm hearing news that some wounded people have been brought to Abidjan, and one of them having to call me and said that the war is not easy and we are really fighting. We know what can we do, and we are out of ammunition. That afternoon, Taylor came to Abidjan. When Taylor came, he said, well, what you would do. So that afternoon, he took me from Ouagadougou. He asked that we should go to Abidjan. And we went to Abidjan looking for arms and ammunition. He has a contact with some people there. The late Kofi Kona was the defense minister of Cote d'Ivoire at the time. And he said, look, we have to go to see this man. He has talked to Ofe Boigny later, and we must see this Kofi Kona. And we went to Kofi Kona, were introduced as a man who would be there to help transport whatsoever material they would have on ground for us. So he said he was not wasting time. He had to go back to Ouagadougou and waiting for the Libyans. They also promised